The neon sign of the roadside diner flickered against the dark Arizona highway, casting tired light onto cracked pavement and dusty windows. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and fried onions hung in the air. Emily sat in the far corner booth, her back pressed against the wall, her arms wrapped protectively around her 6-year-old son, Noah. He was asleep with his head on her lap, his small fingers clutching the edge of her worn sweater. Emily hadn't slept in 2 days. Fear kept her awake better than any caffeine ever could. She checked the door every time it opened. Her ex hadn't hit her, at least not yet, but the threats, the stalking, the way he always seemed to find her had finally pushed her to run. She'd left California with nothing but a backpack, her son, and a phone with a dying battery. The money was almost gone. The night felt endless. That was when she noticed him. He sat alone at the counter, broad shoulders stretching the leather jacket on his back. A large winged skull patch marked him clearly, Hell's Angels. His boots were scuffed, his beard rough, his hands scarred like they'd lived a hard life. Other customers kept their distance, whispering, sneaking looks, then quickly looking away. Emily's heart raced faster, not because of him, but because of what he represented. Protection. She shook her head, telling herself it was a stupid thought. Men like him were trouble. That's what she'd always been taught. But then the diner door opened again, and Emily froze. A tall man stepped inside, scanning the room. It wasn't her ex, but fear doesn't care about logic. Her breath caught, her hands trembled, and Noah stirred. She made a decision she never thought she would. Emily gently lifted Noah, whispered to the waitress that she'd be right back, and slowly walked toward the counter. Each step felt heavier than the last. When she reached the biker, he looked up, his eyes sharp but not cruel. They were the kind of eyes that had seen too much. "I'm sorry," she whispered, barely able to form the words. "I know this sounds crazy." He didn't interrupt. He just waited. "My son and I, we're not safe," she continued, her voice breaking. "There's someone looking for us. I just need help until morning." She swallowed hard, tears burning. Then the words slipped out, desperate and raw. "Please, be my husband, just for tonight." The biker studied her face, then glanced at the sleeping child in her arms. The diner noise faded for Emily as she waited for him to laugh, to yell, or to tell her to get lost. Instead, he slowly placed his coffee cup down. "You sit," he said calmly, nodding to the empty stool beside him. His voice was low, steady. "What's your name?" "Emily," she whispered. "I'm Jack," he replied. "And no one's bothering you tonight." Jack stood up, his presence suddenly filling the room. He wrapped an arm around Emily's shoulders, not possessive, not threatening, just firm enough to feel real. To anyone watching, they looked like a tired family on a long road trip. For the first time in days, Emily felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Jack played the role naturally, as if he had done it 100 times before. He ordered food for Emily and Noah without asking questions, pushing the plate toward her like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Eat," he said softly. "You need strength." Emily hesitated, then realized how hungry she was. Noah woke up, confused at first, then smiled shyly when Jack slid a small packet of candy across the counter. To the rest of the diner, Jack was suddenly different. The waitress addressed him with respect, calling Emily, "Ma'am," and even the man who had been scanning the room earlier took one look at Jack's jacket and chose a different seat. Jack didn't stare him down or threaten him. He didn't need to. His calm confidence did all the work. They stayed there for hours. Jack talked just enough to keep things believable, how long they'd been married, where they were headed next. Emily followed his lead, her fear slowly loosening its grip. For the first time in weeks, she laughed quietly at one of his dry jokes. The sound surprised her. When the diner began to empty and the clock crept toward midnight, Jack leaned in and lowered his voice. "You got somewhere to sleep." Emily shook her head. "Not really." "Then you do now," he said. Outside, the air was cool and still. Jack led them to his motorcycle first, then stopped and shook his head. Nope, not safe for the kid. Instead, he walked them across the lot to an old pickup truck parked under a flickering streetlight. Emily hadn't even noticed it before. The motel was nothing fancy, just a small roadside place with buzzing lights and faded curtains, but to Emily it felt like a palace. Jack paid in cash, asked for a room close to the office, and made sure the door locks worked. Inside, He placed the extra blanket over Noah, who was already half asleep. "You'll stay here tonight," Jack said. "Door locked. If anyone knocks, you don't answer unless it's morning." Emily nodded, overwhelmed. "Why are you doing this?" she finally asked. Jack paused at the door. For a moment, the tough biker image slipped, revealing something quieter underneath. "Because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it," he said simply. After they settled in, Emily fell asleep almost instantly, exhaustion finally winning. What she didn't know was that Jack didn't go back to the bar or the road. He sat in his truck for hours, keeping watch. He made phone calls, first to a legal aid number he had saved, then to a friend who ran a small charity helping women start over. He explained just enough, never using Emily's full name. By morning, arrangements were in motion. When Emily woke up, sunlight spilled through the thin curtains. Noah was still sleeping peacefully. On the small table near the door sat a bag of breakfast food, a motel receipt marked, "Paid for 2 nights," and a folded note. Jack was gone. Her hands shook as she opened the note. "Not all angels wear halos. Take the help. Start fresh." Emily sat down slowly, tears filling her eyes, not from fear this time, but from hope. 8 hours earlier, she had whispered a desperate lie to a stranger. Now, because of his quiet actions, that lie had opened the door to a real second chance. Emily stayed seated on the edge of the motel bed long after she finished reading the note. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of traffic outside and Noah's steady breathing. For the first time in months, there was no panic in her chest, no need to run immediately. Jack's words echoed in her mind. Take the help. Start fresh. She washed her face, changed Noah's clothes, and opened the bag Jack had left behind. Inside were warm breakfast sandwiches, juice, and a small stuffed dog for Noah. When he woke and saw it, his eyes lit up. "Mom, is this from the biker man?" he asked. Emily smiled and nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Later that morning, she gathered her courage and called the number written on the back of the note. A calm woman answered, already aware of Emily's situation. Jack hadn't shared details, just enough to open doors. By noon, Emily had an appointment with a legal aid counselor who explained her options clearly and kindly. For the first time, the future didn't feel like a wall, it felt like a road. Over the next few days, things moved slowly but steadily. Emily was connected to a temporary housing program and scheduled for a job interview at a small logistics office nearby. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it came with health coverage. Each step forward felt unreal, like she might wake up and find it gone. But it wasn't gone. It was real. At night, when Noah fell asleep, Emily found herself thinking about Jack. She didn't know his last name, where he was headed, or if she'd ever see him again. She only knew what he had chosen to do when he could have turned away. He hadn't tried to be a hero. He hadn't asked for praise. He had simply shown up, and then quietly disappeared. A week later, Emily saw him again. She was walking Noah to a small park near their new place when the low rumble of a motorcycle rolled through the street. She looked up, heart skipping, and there he was, Jack, slowing near the curb. He didn't stop right away. He just nodded, checking that she was okay. Emily stepped closer. "Jack," she said softly. He removed his helmet, surprised but smiling faintly. "Looks like you're doing better." "Because of you," she replied. "Thank you, for everything." Jack shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. "You did the hard part." Noah waved enthusiastically. "Hi, Biker Angel." Jack laughed, a real laugh this time. "Guess that's my new name." He didn't stay long, just long enough to be sure they were safe. Before leaving, he said one last thing. "Don't let the past tell you who you are." As the motorcycle disappeared down the street, Emily held Noah's hand tightly. She realized the shocking truth wasn't what Jack had done in 8 hours, it was what he had changed forever. One night of courage, one stranger's kindness, had rewritten their story.